My name is Lauren Cicchetti. I'm the Associate Director of Undergraduate Admission at Neumann University. We're here tonight for our parent panel. So I see we have a number of students and parents that have joined us already. We want to make sure we get all of your questions answered. One more time, we want to acknowledge we know this is not the normal way that people want to visit a university. We would love to have you on campus with us, and we hope to see you in the fall if you do choose Neumann. But please make sure you get your questions answered. Please use the Q&A at the bottom of the screen to have any questions you have. We'll either answer them live out loud or we will make sure to answer them in person. And then if you have additional questions, do not hesitate to reach out individually just to make sure that we get you the information you need to make a well-informed decision about college in the fall. So well, let's start off. We'll do a couple quick introductions for everyone that's here part of this panel. Let's start with Preeti Singh.
Hi everybody, welcome. My name is Preeti Singh and I'm the Director of Career and Personal Development at Neumann University. I've been with Neumann for a little over a year now, but I've been in the career services field and higher education for almost 20 years. My passion is to prepare students find their career paths and have a successful college career.
Thank you. Brian, will you go next? Brian DeFoni.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you, Lauren. It's nice to be here with you all. My name is Brian DeFoni. I'm a very proud Neumann University alum. I graduated in 2013 with an English secondary education degree. And I'm also a member of the Executive Alumni Board here at the university. I currently am the program manager of College Possible Philadelphia, which is a national college access and success programming that supports students from low-income backgrounds to and through a college degree.
Thanks, Brian. Ashley, will you introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. My name is Ashley Barba. I am currently a junior at Neumann University. I am a sport management major with a minor in marketing, and I am from New York. I'm also a resident assistant at Bioni, which is for upperclassmen.
Thank you. And McTiernan's, Brian and Kathleen.
Hi, I'm Brian McTiernan.
I'm Kathleen McTiernan.
And we are the proud parents of Bridget McTiernan. She is a sophomore nursing major at Neumann.
Wonderful. And she's currently in class right now, so
Yes.
She is in class.
So we can't be too loud.
For dinner, and after dinner, she had to go upstairs and go to class.
Right. All right, so let's get started. A couple questions for Brian as well as Ashley, since you are students that attended or attended. Why did you choose Neumann? So Ashley, get us started.
So Neumann, I'm from New York City, so everything here is very wild and stuff. But choosing college, I knew I wanted to go into like a small school, something where they will pretty much focus on you, not see you as a number, but see you as who you are, kind of take you in that route. Like, they want you to graduate in 4 years or like wherever your program is. I also based it on my major. So I spoke to directors within my major and they are awesome. So that kind of had a huge influence on where to go.
Great. Brian, how about you?
Yeah, I think when I started my college search many moons ago now at this point, I guess, I immediately fell in love with Neumann's campus because it's a beautiful campus, and quite frankly, I think the campus sells itself. But I also fell in love with, I came from a small Catholic high school, and I knew myself as a learner that I would do best in a small environment. And so when I went onto Neumann's campus, I immediately knew, just based on my interactions with various key stakeholders on campus, that I could see myself on this campus. I was first in my family to go to college, and so I really was looking for that support system that I knew I would need in order to successfully get through college, and I found that very quickly at Neumann, even from my very first interactions with the admissions team, straight on through to just various key stakeholders in different departments. I was able to get in front of very quickly, and I knew pretty early on that that's where I wanted to go.
Thank you. And Brian and Kathleen, can you talk a little bit about the process as parents and going through this with your daughter?
You want to start?
There you go.
No, you start.
So I'm an engineer myself, and Kate is a scientist and researcher turned teacher. So we look at things very systematically, I think. Bridget, I think, is probably more of a sort of a feeler, goes by her gut instinct. And we also knew that our choices of college are different than the things that she likes. So I think right early on, we knew that it had to be Bridget's decision. I sure didn't want to influence that. And And she knew what she wanted. She went to a small Catholic high school. And so she looked at a lot of different schools. I did want to make sure that she looked at schools even if she thought it wasn't what she wanted, so she could confirm that wasn't what she wanted. But with each school that she looked at, even multiple times, somehow she came away maybe with more hesitation. And every time we went back to Neumann, it was just more and more firm that was where she belonged. She just fell in love with it, and it only got better. And it turned out to be a great choice because, even 2 years later, we just all love it. That's why we're here. I just think it's been a terrific choice for her.
And I know, I think the size was one of the big things that really spoke to her. To kind of go on what Brian said, she wanted something small. She wanted something where she wouldn't just be a number, where people knew her, teachers knew her, and she felt comfortable to interact with the teachers. And she really got all of that and more at Neumann. So definitely pleased with her decision, and she's really flourishing.
Great. Preeti, can you talk a little bit about, obviously, your Office of Career and Personal Development? What does that really do, and what does that mean?
Sure. So the career development process starts really from the time students start their very first semester. Even if you're not consciously thinking about anything career related, maybe you're looking for a part-time position. Maybe you're questioning your major, or maybe you're wondering, what can I do with my major? Some majors, it's pretty clear. If you're a business major, you're probably headed into business. But if you're social work or psychology or one of those liberal arts type majors, you're probably wondering what your options are. So right off the bat, we can help you figure out, how to maximize the education that you're receiving at Neumann in terms of your career development process. And then heading into sophomore and junior years, you're definitely going to start looking at building a resume. So we help with that, preparing for internships. Students at Neumann are required to do an internship, which I think is amazing. Not all schools require that. And my office vets the quality of those experiences. So if you apply for an internship, or if you're offered an internship, my office takes a look at those to see if they are complementary with your curriculum and your career goals. And once that happens, again, we prepare students to be competitive candidates in terms of interview prep. We bring employers to campus. We have 2 career fairs in an academic year. So employers come to campus to recruit our students. We connect them with employers through alumni, through other voice networking options that we have on campus. And then finally, when they're marketable, they have an internship under their belt, they're involved on campus, they do service opportunities. We leverage and package all of those experiences and help them be competitive candidates in the job market. Or if they're going to grad school, then we help prep them for that as well.
Great, thank you. So we had a question come in from Eric Ambrose. I know that students are making these decisions remotely and maybe haven't visited campus. So I'll go into a little bit about the school itself. So you've heard our panelists say small classes, small school. We have about 2,600 undergraduate students. We do have average class sizes about 22, faculty student ratios about 14:1. You can access all of that information on our website as well. So feel free to take a look if you have those questions, and we can always send out information if you reach out directly to us. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have any very specific questions to any one of us or anyone in the Office of Admission as well. So Preeti started talking about internships and how do we prepare students for their careers after college. Ashley, will you jump in and talk a little bit about some of your experiences, since I know you started your internships right after your freshman year?
Yes. So my first internship was back at home with the New York Mets. It's never too late, too early to start for an internship. Obviously, you want more just so you can have the different experiences. I was told from my intro class that it's rather better to start early to see what you like and what you don't like, and kind of have an idea, like after you're done with college, to know like, hey, I remember I did this my freshman year and no, I'm not doing it again. Or maybe you can go back and say, wow, I really love that. Like I really want to see myself in that kind of route, So it's start as soon as you go into college, start networking with people, and the faculties are very helpful when it comes to that because they want to see what you like and kind of like put you in that kind of direction. So yeah, go for it.
Great. What other, Ashley, talk about, you said the New York Mets. What are your other internships and what did you do as part of your internship?
Yeah, so for the New York Mets, I worked in a group sales department. I didn't necessarily sell tickets. I did a lot of like game operations. So I was on the field doing like the first pitch. I was working with groups who brought like companies or birthday parties right in the ballpark, It was a lot of kind of like one-on-ones with clients. We did a lot of seat visits, and that was just all part of the internship. My second year, I came back home. I worked with the US Open tennis. The only thing about it was because I was starting to become an RA, I didn't work during the tournament. I worked before it. So I did speak with clients. It was more of like customer service. So it was a little more like the office type, like a kind of like a 9 to 5. But it was fun. And now I'm interning for GF Sports. I haven't started yet, so we're kind of just waiting on like a start date with that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, can you talk a little bit about your experience and, obviously your either internships or your choice of major and how you move forward?
Yeah, so I was in a unique position as an English secondary ed major, so I kind of had touch points in two divisions in the university, one being arts and sciences as an English literature major, one in the education side of things as well. So part of my first internship I actually did was sophomore year, after I had declared my major as English secondary ed. I actually internshipped in Camden, New Jersey for Catholic Partnership Schools. I did a summer literacy program that I was able to essentially support running a summer literacy program for students who are enrolled in the Camden Partnership Schools program throughout the school year. And I was able to get that internship directly through a professor in the education department. And so I worked very closely with her as she kind of was a mentor of mine. And again, it's the beauty of the 14-to-1 class ratio for professors and students is I could develop those relationships pretty quickly. And she was able to help me get my first internship that really opened my eyes to urban education collectively and really helped pave the path of my career where I stand today.
Thank you. And Brian and Kathleen, I know that Bridget hasn't started her clinicals. Is she excited for the opportunity to do those? And do you have any insight into what she's going to be doing? You may not.
Yes, she is very excited. She's already ordered pretty much everything she needs in terms of stethoscope, blood pressure cuff, etc. She's using all those in lab currently. We do not know where she'll be yet, but she will start those. I don't know that they're really internships per se, they're clinicals. I'm sure it is an internship per se, but that'll be started junior year. And she's very excited to put into use everything that she's learned up to this point. So I know, I believe she's really at both ends of the spectrum. She talks about neonatal. She also talks about geriatrics. So I know she's very excited to see everything that is that will be offered to her in terms of really defining her career path.
Great, thank
And
you.
that starts in the fall.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so she just signed up for classes and the clinicals.
And just for our nursing majors, we do clinicals all over the region, lots of different healthcare and hospitals, Mainline Health, as well as DuPont and Christiana. So we're really getting our students into the places that they're going to work after college, so they get that hands-on experience. And that's not just for nursing, but for all majors across the board too. Preeti, can you talk a little bit? We have a couple questions come in about when students can start internships. I know Ashley did one freshman year, but is there a time frame that you recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it really depends on the student. Like Ashley did hers the very first semester. There are students who are ready to go as soon as they come on campus to do an internship, and that's fine. Generally, what employers like to see are that you have some major related courses under your belt before they take you on as interns. So that's generally speaking. So typically sophomore year and junior year are the prime times for internships, because by then you have some sense of your major, some sense of the content, and then if you are at an employer site, you can apply some of those concepts to the projects that they might assign you. Again, you can do it at any time. So senior year too, there's students who do a second internship or maybe their first internship then. But generally it's those 2 years, sophomore and junior years. But yeah, you can absolutely do it the first year.
Great, thank you. Couple questions about registering for courses that came in. Just want to make sure I point out that for any incoming freshmen, if you are a deposited student, once you deposit, you will be able to fill out a course preference form. That's the first thing that you do if you're registering for courses. That helps our academic advisors identify these classes that you are more interested in, and they will create your schedule for you. So once you deposit and you do that form, after that when things will come out for their course schedule for the fall for anyone that is already coming to Neumann specifically. Preeti, we have a question about internships for criminal justice. I know that's really specific, but it is one of those liberal arts majors that, maybe students don't know what they can do with it.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. So we see our students, it depends on interests, right? So if there's a specific population that you're interested in, then we'll try to connect you with that group. There are students who are interested in working with youth. So there's correctional facilities for youth. There's police departments, there's justice department if you're more into the administration, the legal, the political side of criminal justice. So there's a lot of different settings where students have done internships. Advocacy is another one. So victims' rights, that's another side of criminal justice. So there really is a variety of places that students can do the internship. We usually start with, what's your interest? Is there any area that you're interested in, and work from there. I hope that answers that question.
Oh, you're muted, Lauren.
Can't ever mute myself. I always forget to take myself off. So what do you think, how does Neumann prepare our students for success, not just through the Career and Personal Development Office, but what other experiences do you think? Brian, will you answer this one a little bit, just from your experience?
Yeah, so I think for me, the realization of starting at Neumann is, given that it is such a tight network on campus, you are offered a lot of opportunities that otherwise you may not be offered at larger institutions. So for example, I went to the Leadership Conference out in Chicago that I was nominated by a professor when I was an undergrad. And it was essentially a conference that I was able to go to with other students from across the country and to be able to explore something that you were passionate about. Obviously, mine was around education, urban education in particular. But again, those were types of resume builders that I was able to quickly acquire at Neumann in the 4 years that I was there. So something that I always recommend, and I tell the students that I work with on a day-to-day basis, is as you're on campus, make sure to network with professors and staff on campus. You have a rich resource, you have a wealth of rich resources around you that in life you don't always have access to. And so I highly encourage students when they're on campus, especially at a school like Neumann where we have so much afforded to us on such a small campus, to utilize those resources. So that's an example of how Neumann prepared me to be able to help separate my resume as I was looking for employment right after undergrad, that I'm very grateful for.
Great, thank you.
And to kind of like piggyback on what Brian said, that's kind of how I got my internship right now. Because of everything going on, it was pretty tough, especially in the sport industry. Everything was closing, all like baseball, everything was canceled. I knew I had to have made a connection because of a professor freshman year. And he moved to New York and he became like senior vice president of the company that we were working with. And because he's like heard great references from professors and such, he didn't even offer me like an interview. He was just like, I trust them, so you got the job. So now, it's just like, it's going back to like speaking to your professors, kind of like getting to know them really well and them getting to know you really well. And then they can just see like where and what would be a perfect fit for you. You know what I mean?
I think that's a great point that Ashley brought up. We talk to students about networking all the time, right? Because of Neumann's size and the personalized relationships that we're building with each other, from faculty to administrators to, alumni, I think that students really have that opportunity to network without feeling overwhelmed. So by the time they graduate, they sort of have that built-in network of their classmates and the Neumann community which we then help them leverage into different opportunities.
I was told as a freshman student at Neumann that my net worth was based on my network, and I took that to heart, and I ran with that because it does really change the trajectory of who you interact with.
Like that.
Well, and I think that network too works in every facet, all of our majors as well. If you're talking about some of the health sciences majors, the clinical experiences that you get could be the places you end up working because they have that experience with you already. So it just builds off of what Ashley said, is that you never know who is your future employer or a future worker. So the more people you know and the network you build is going to make the biggest difference in your success after college. So we've talked a little bit about internships after college. What are some things that you think are important for classroom and that transition? Obviously, it's different than high school to college. So what things do you think are important for students to know? And Ashley, since you're the current student, what do you think?
I went to a big high school and I loved it. It was fun, but you can get distracted easily. So I knew for college I wanted something different. And you said class sizes, correct? Are you kind of cut off? So you start off the biggest class I've ever had was at least 30 students, and that's because it's a gen ed class. Everyone has to take it. But then as you get older, I guess, as you go higher into your major, into more specific what you want to get into, it becomes smaller. It becomes way more personalized. You get friends. You become friends with people who you've known already, and you guys either go in the same route, or it just becomes you kind of get your hands dirty, let's say, within your major, and it's really good. So that little class, it helps out. It goes a long way. So
great. Preeti, what do you think? Is there any centralized location that students can go if they need help outside of the classroom? How do we support the students?
Absolutely. So the main building on campus, the Bachman building, the entire first floor, the bottom floor of the building is called the Hub. And we call it the Hub because all of the resources and support services that students would need are located here. So you don't have to travel across campus to go to one office and then go, 5 miles down the road to another office. It's all there. So if students need help with their papers, the writing center is down there, advising is down there, my office is down there, disability service is down there. So it's really one centralized spot where all of us are located, so a student can seek any kind of support services that they're looking for. Tutoring is down there too. So we really made it super convenient and easy for students to access all of us. And then all of us have our content online as well. But again, location-wise, the Hub at Neumann, Bachman building, lower level.
I'll just add to that too a little bit. I think given the class sizes of Neumann really allow for you, I was really intimidated by office hours, professors' office hours. I think that's a really intimidating concept. It's well, I don't want to meet with one of my professors, in their office. And so for me, I was really intimidated by that. But given the small class size, our professors became very, very approachable very quickly. And I utilized office hours a lot in some of the courses that I struggle with. As an English major, I wasn't great at doing math, so I had to take a calculus class. So I went and I met with my professor. I went to his office hours, and then I utilized the Hub as additional resources. And I think to your point, Lauren, I think the class size really does help you set yourself up for success as you think about some of those more difficult or scary ideas when it comes to higher ed.
I just want to add to what Brian just said. Great point, because Neumann continues to amaze me because I was talking to the dean about a student, the dean of school business this afternoon, about a student and an internship situation, and he knew who the student was, and I've worked at other institutions where that would never happen, and I named the student, and Dean Wellington said, oh yeah, he talked to me about that, and we were able to have that exchange right away, which makes such a big difference because students have that network of support. I think it's important. It's great. A lot of schools have a lot of support services, but do those support services and people within those offices interact with each other, right? And at Neumann, we're able to do that. And I love that because it just makes for a stronger network of support for students. It's less likely that a student will slip through the crack if 3 or 4 people in different offices know exactly who that student is.
Yeah, I also know from a parent's perspective, I was, of course, I think, could share that we were concerned, of course, right, with Bridget moving away from home and for the first time, and she's not too far away, but at the same time, right, she's not here every night. We're not checking in. Well, now she is, but you know, hopefully soon she'll be back, and you know, not knowing what's going on is difficult as a parent. But I was super happy to hear, you know, when she would talk about a professor, and I would say, you know, well, how do you know this? Oh, well, I talked to the professor about my test, or, you know, the test that I just took, or I talked about the test coming up, and when did you do that? Well, at office hours. And I'm thinking, wow, I never would have done that as a college student. And, you know, for her, it's just second nature. You know, she just goes and they have a schedule and they know what time they're available and they can stop in or make an appointment. And it, to me, it's amazing. They're really partners in education.
Great. We've had a couple questions come in for, it looks like Ashley, about, can you talk a little bit about student life and what do you do on the weekends? And also, how does your work, internship, life, school balance work out for you? How do you manage it all and still be successful everywhere in your life?
So I like to keep myself super occupied when it comes to Monday through Friday. When it comes to internships, one of my biggest mistakes, and I always blame New York for it, is that I don't know how to drive. So because of that, that's kind of kept me back. So I've taken my internships all in the summertime, but I have plenty of friends who take it during school. So I can't really tell you from that perspective, but I've kept myself occupied by being an RA on campus, being part of student government, KPB, which is our Nights Programming Board, which hosts different events during the week, during weekends. They'll have like trips going to like games, or we'll do like New York trips. We kind of get like everyone's perspective and like what they want to do, what they want to see on campus. A lot has changed since freshman year. I wasn't homesick, but you know, it was pretty quiet freshman year, but now it's just like you hop on Instagram, you see what they're posting, and there's always something going on. So they've definitely done a lot on campus to keep people busy, to keep people away from their dorms. So that's super helpful when it comes to like first year students and like making friends and like seeing like what there is to do besides just go to class Monday through Fridays.
I also love, sorry, I'll just say this quickly because I was so excited last year I got to participate. The first year students do a day of service. So right off the bat, and it was really fun because some of the faculty and staff get to participate in that too. So everybody got to know each other. We're divided up into groups with students and faculty and staff. And I think right off the bat, I saw the students in my group. We went to a shelter to help them organize and just kind of regroup a little bit. And the students in my group got to know each other, and we ended up having so much fun that day. So service opportunities, yeah, for those interested. Those are all.
I remembered Bridget doing that, you know,
day of service.
Yeah, and loved it. And I think she's continued doing that ever since. She's very involved in the ministry team and jazz band, and she plays a sport. And she always says when, you know, we would ask early on, no, not anymore, but we would say, is there enough to do? And she said, oh yeah, you know, because as long as you sign up and get involved, there's plenty to do. But if you're not going to get involved, then obviously there's probably not. But if you put yourself out there, there's a lot going on, and she's loved it.
And a wide variety. I mean, she goes from jazz band, like Brian said, campus ministry. She plays a sport. There's acting, theater, music. There's you know, a lot of different sports, community service. There really is a wide array of activities that seem to really have the ability to appeal to a lot of different students.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that too. I was heavily involved in campus ministry on campus. I think service is really ingrained in the fabric of the culture of Neumann, and it's very evident from student on up to the president of the university on a day-to-day basis. And as somebody who currently sits on the executive alumni board, I do see that come to fruition constantly. I had the opportunity to travel out to Wyoming while I was at college, and I worked with the Shoshone and Arapaho tribes, and I was able to do an immersion trip while I was out there. And so again, that was through campus ministry. I was out there for, you know, I think a week and some change maybe. And again, when would I ever go to Wyoming, you know? And it was a beautiful experience that made me really grateful for where I chose to go to school.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and Brian, you know, you talked about some of that travel. We do have the option to study abroad, and also do some other trips that are major specific. So Preeti, can you talk a little bit about those options as well?
Sure. Yeah. So part of my office also oversees our trips abroad. So whether it's for an entire semester or if it's connected to a course, for example, the language course has a trip to Italy. You know, we were going to do a trip to Spain this year. We have affiliations with schools overseas in Great Britain and Ireland and England. So there are a lot of opportunities. So depending on where students want to study in the world, one of my assistant directors can help find a program or find an experience, and connect them with that. Ideally, study abroad experiences are invaluable. Students who have done those walk away with learning so much from them. Any international trip, whether it's a short-term summer trip connected to a class, the skills that students learn there are invaluable, and it also makes them very, very marketable in terms of employers because you're thinking globally. And that's, you know, one of the things that we like to think is, you know, we're part of the global community. So Neumann students are prepared to be global citizens through a variety of experiences, including the experiences overseas.
Great, thank you. Preeti, one question that came from that, are trips abroad included in tuition?
Study abroad can be, yes, built into your financial aid or your tuition because it's just you're studying for the entire semester. So however you're paying for your tuition, you would just pay the tuition. There are additional costs if you're doing a short-term trip over spring break or connected to a course. There is a cost associated with that.
Great, thank you. We had one question come in asking about our faith-based courses. We are a Franciscan institution, so we do require 2 theology courses. That one is Neumann specific, our Theology 104 course, and then we also have a secondary theology course that students have a choice about what to take. We have a world religions course as well as a sports and spirituality course that is very popular, so you have a little bit of flexibility with that second course. But wanted to make sure I answered that question right there. We have another student that asked about, Ashley, can you talk a little bit about your experiences living in the residence halls, and what is that like, and what was the transition like living with a roommate? Kind of give us your whole experience.
So I met my roommate during orientation in the summertime. There's, I believe, 3 in the summertime that you're allowed to come to, and it's like a weekend with meeting different students. And it's a funny story because we just kind of came up to each other and was like, can you be my roommate? And it was like a yes, and we just went with it. Then from there, we're still friends, and so now we were still roommates. So it can be pretty hard. I know, like, if you're coming from like a different state, you don't really know anyone. But honestly, like, I think someone mentioned it before, it's what you put into it. If you go out there and you join at different clubs, you go to the events. I know the RAs are super helpful when it comes to that. The resident assistants, they will do different events on your floor. They will partner up with maybe another building, or join an event. So it's, you know, their main goal is for you to be like, you're at home. You know, you want Neumann to be your second home because that's where you'll be spending, you know, your days, your nights. So you want to be comfortable. And like I said, the RAs are super helpful when it comes to any problems going on. I know freshman year, that first semester can be super hard to adjust to. So that's when, you know, the RA or even like other faculties, that's where they come to play and, you know, really make it feel like a second home, because I know Neumann is my second home besides being here in New York.
Yeah.
And I'll just add to that, because I was a resident on campus as well. Our dorms are gorgeous, and they sell themselves. I take students in my current position. I bring students to Neumann's campus, and so the dorms, I mean, they're really, really nice comparatively to some of the dorms that you may get as a freshman on larger campuses. There's just no comparison. So if you have a chance to see the dorms, you should.
Yes. And they're actually getting redone. So they were built in the 90s, late 90s. So we did one residence hall this past summer, and then they're going to do an additional one this coming summer as well. So just updating rooms. And the one they redid already looks wonderful. It's really, really nice. So definitely when we're able to get back on campus, something to come see. We also have a video for Residence Life that is posted that you can actually see. They did a quick virtual tour on that. So feel free to explore all of those videos that we have posted up as well, because we tried to make sure that we're answering some of these questions that you would normally have when you come to campus through those videos. So definitely use that resource as well. Brian, you mentioned that you work with high school students. So can you talk a little bit about what you think are some recommendations for high school students that are making this final decision? What should they be thinking about looking at as they make their final decisions about Neumann?
Yeah, I think it's important for high school students to know who they are as learners, right? I think you've had 4 years of practice in high school to say, do I do really well in big spaces, or would I do significantly better in a small space? I also think that, going into college, regardless of where you choose to go, college, the entire experience is what you make of it. And so I tell students, regardless of where they end up going, is that it's only going to be what you put into it, right? So if you are not involved, if you're choosing to, whether you're a commuter or a resident, it really is you pave the path of how you want your secondary education, your post-secondary education experience to be. So I would make sure that students, you have that plan, you know who you are as a learner, and then you quickly get on campus and learn and navigate how to navigate. You learn how to navigate the campus, right? I think colleges can be really overwhelming. There's lots of departments, even just represented on this call. And so making sure that that as a student, all of those departments work on your behalf. And so utilizing those resources on campus will really set you up for success in all facets.
Great. And the McTiernans, can you talk a little bit about, maybe some fears that you had? What are some things that Bridget was worrying about as she transitioned to her freshman year as well?
Definitely worried about being away from home for the first time. It was the first time that she had lived anywhere but home.
Was that her fear or ours?
I think it was probably a little bit of both of our fears. But I will say from a parent perspective, campus safety was a fear because you never know, you're sending them off. We've really never had an issue with the safety. Campus safety's been really good in terms of who enters and leaves the dorms. It's well controlled. And even the safety, it's a nice suburban setting, but not too far from the city. I mean, Philadelphia is not too far for city activities, different sports events. Shopping is nearby. There are different, King of Prussia Mall is not all that far.
They go into media.
Media. So there's a lot of activities on that end. I think she was a little worried that she would not have anything to do, but all of those things made it really possible for her and, making friends. But as Ashley pointed out, she met some really nice friends at one of those weekends for the incoming freshmen. Some of them ended up as her roommates, and she's kept up those friendships as well. And I think to go back to Brian's point earlier, in terms of accessibility of the professors, I know that was a worry for her. Would she be able to have those interactions? And she was. So, sort of everything was kind of checked off as it came up. All of those fears were allayed. There was nothing to worry about. And just as she went through the process, she just kind of figured it out. And Neumann makes it really easy for students to figure it out on their own, because the help is there if they need it, but they're also really encouraged to be their own person.
I think I had the hardest time after she started. She had no problem making it work and making the transition. I thought it was going to be Kathleen, but it turned out, I don't know. I struggled with it a little bit, but it was totally comforting when she went off to school and we didn't see her until probably halfway through the semester when there was a reason for her to come home. Mm-hmm. I was a little afraid that she would struggle a bit, and it's only 25 minutes from us, and I thought,
she'll be home all the time.
Yeah, I hope she settles in.
We never saw her.
Yeah, she got involved and she just fit right in.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Ashley, can you talk a little bit about, we have some questions coming in about restrictions. Are there restrictions for students when they come and live in the residence halls? Obviously, Brian and Kathleen talked about, Bridget's never home. Can you talk a little bit about that experience as an RA and also a student living in the residence halls too?
So when I was in the resident halls on campus, there are a few restrictions, but honestly, it's nothing major. It's not like you can't do anything. But you do have to follow some policies, obviously, and it was just fun. It was just, the thing I like about the dorms is that you meet people who aren't within your major. So, you can have, your neighbor could be someone who you wouldn't expect to be friends with. And these are people who you really you become friends with, and they become like family. And there are things to do. Like I said, the RAs are super helpful when it comes to creating events. So as an RA perspective, my job this year was a bit different just because my whole floor were seniors, so they have like a different mindset, you could say. They're deciding on what to do after college, how to look for internships. Some were starting to look for internships, some were kind of deciding between two jobs. So that's a whole different point of view of a freshman who's still learning to adjust. So wondering, maybe they don't know what's going on today. So that's just a different point of view as an RA between the two.
Yeah, thank you. I think that answered the question. And I think, the reality is there are some policies for the residence halls, but we do treat our students as growing adults for 18.
Yeah, of course.
So we want to make sure that we are helping them transition from that being in the parent household to really being able to be on their own and make good choices as they go through. So those policies are in place to protect them, but also
of course
allow them to be who they are. So you don't have a curfew, you don't have requirements of when you need to be back on campus, but you do have some visitor policies that stay along with our mission. So there's some things that we are very flexible with, and some things that we just want to make sure that we're keeping our students safe. Ashley, a couple more questions about having things to do on the weekends. I do know we get this question, and I'll jump in a little bit. We do get students that question, is there enough to do on the weekends? I think people did answer that with saying that there's plenty to do if you seek it out. But there are going to be students that do go home, and that is their absolute choice, and they are allowed to do that. But Ashley, can you talk a little bit? You are a student that doesn't go home over the weekend. You live 2 hours away.
So it's funny, freshman year for my first semester, I did go home a lot. Even though it was 2 hours away, I did go home a lot. But then, like I said, once you start putting yourself out there, once you start, going into these events, I can't list them all out for you right now because there's so many. But because of that, you would want to stay on campus, if that makes sense. Because your friends say, hey, there's this going on this weekend, stay. That makes you want to stay. It doesn't make you want to go home, and so it's there's different things that go on campus. So it's just you attending it if you want to or not. So it's kind of on you.
Ashley, can you name a couple things that come to the top of your mind of your favorite experiences?
I know we have homecoming, that's our first meet event, once you come. There's a lot of music, DJs, there's a lot of food. Everyone loves free food. So we'll have different shows and stuff. I know towards the end of the year there's the best day ever, which is one of our biggest events. That's really cool too. It's a whole week during the last week of classes. But yeah.
Great. Thank you. All right, we're coming down to the end of our time that we have offered. I do see we have a number of questions that are still open right now. So I'm going to start running down the list of questions. Some have already been answered, but I want to make sure that we get them all answered. And I can obviously handle some of these answers as well. So a couple people have questions about the deposit. Just so you are aware, we did drop the deposit right now to $55 for any students that want to enroll in Neumann. That deposit amount holds your spot in courses and classes. So that is a way that we know that you're coming to Neumann. That triggers us to ask for the additional information that needs to come in. So everything that would be in your portal. If you did pay the previous deposit amount, that money will go directly to your towards your tuition. So that money doesn't go away, you don't lose it, it goes towards your tuition. So do not worry that change would not affect anything. Your bill would just look a little differently with that deposit amount, just so you're aware. We have a question about scholarships. There are scholarships, typically follows you through your 4 years here, so your merit scholarship will stay the same. We do have some endowed scholarships that students can get, but you would talk with the financial aid office about all of those scholarships each year, if there's an application process or if there is, a selection process that does that. And that's the financial aid office you can ask for about that. You have a question about student teaching. This is probably one that Preeti might answer, but I know that education as well, Brian, you might be good to answer this too. Wants to know, where do they get placed for student teaching?
So it depends on, what's available and where the student is geographically and what their interest is and what area of education. So for programs that have that as a requirement, for example, nursing or student teaching, do not go through my office, but there's a designated person in each school that handles and make sure that you're meeting all the accreditation requirements to graduate in those areas. So student teaching is in a variety of schools depending on where you are and what's available at the time, but you will be placed.
Thank you. And I see we do have a number of specific questions regarding majors. Just so everyone is aware, we do have an academic session that will be on Friday at 11:45. So if you are interested in more questions that are very specific to your area, you can go to each one of those sessions, and they're split up by our schools. So you can talk with the dean of that school, who can give you some really specific examples regarding their students about either internships or class sizes and what their programs are about specifically. So make sure that you ask those questions and come to that session. If you can't, anyone in our admissions office can connect you with someone in the department or in the division that can answer these questions very specifically if you're curious about that. Question about student schedules, that will be over the summer, just so you're aware. Once you complete that course registration form, that will be sent out to the student, and those are created first year by the advisors. We make sure that we do everything for them that first year, and then after that they will be able to make sure they're picking classes with their advisor to make sure they're staying on track for graduation in 4 years as well. So let's see what else is on my list here. How does an internship fit in with a daily schedule? Preeti, you might be a good one to answer this as well.
Yeah, so there is no one cookie cutter answer for that. Neumann is very flexible. We work with employers and the student's schedule. There is an hour requirement. So for most students, it's 150 hours to get 3 credits for an internship. How they do those 150 hours is up to them. So the students look at their schedule, look at what's available. We help them figure that out. When their classes are, if they can group their classes together, or if they have, an afternoon free, then we communicate that with the employers. We coach them to talk to the employers about that. And most employers know that students are in school, so they work around classes. So if it's 150 hours, we may have a student do 15 hours for 10 weeks, and they work that out with the employer. So there's a lot of flexibility there in terms of when a student can fit those in. So it can be 3 hours a day, it can be 10 hours a day. It all depends on their schedule, what that looks like academically, what else is going on in their life, and then how the employers can fit that in with what they need.
Thank you. Have another question here about commuter students and eating in the dining hall. One thing that Neumann did in the past couple years is, for our commuter students, we've actually put in place part of room and board is a small stipend for a meal plan. So if you see your financial aid letter, you will see that. That's what that is it's specifically for commuters for a meal plan. We want to make sure that we are creating that community on campus. So that meal plan allows our students to eat in the dining hall, to have small amount of the Neumann cash points that you can use at the different cafes on campus. So the students really feel included and can sit, in between classes with their friends and eat in the dining hall. And that is really a place where, a lot of that community building happens. We did recently renovate our dining hall in the last couple of years, and that is now a main hub on campus where students do hang out and chat and make friends and meet for lunch. And if you're looking to eat other places on campus, we do have a lot of outdoor seating when it's nice. And then all over campus as well, there's different little kind of nooks and crannies where you can sit and have a private option as well. And I love in the spring when all of our students are sitting outside on campus. They pull out their beach towels or they play, football outside on the lawn. So you can absolutely do that anywhere on campus. You have that freedom if you want to, just kind of find your own space besides your residence hall room, obviously. Question about loans. That would go directly to financial aid. So you can reach out to your financial aid counselor. If you don't know who that is, you can ask your admission counselor as well. They will know, they'll be able to connect you to the right person. And they've been really responsive. Anytime I've emailed, they have been able to get those questions answered pretty quickly. Ashley, have you had to deal with financial aid at all? Like yourself?
Not recently, no.
Okay. Well, have you, in the past, what was your experience like?
It was fine. They're their offices are pretty easy to locate. So we just go in and ask your question. They're very helpful when it comes to that. Or even on the phone, if your parents can't come in, they're pretty quick on emails too.
Thank you. Brian and Kathleen, have you had the same experience?
Yeah, I think we had one or two questions in the beginning, and I mean, like Ashley said, we literally walked into the office and our question was resolved within minutes. They're very receptive, they're very quick to answer, and we've had nothing but good communications with them.
Thank you. You have a question here about roommates. Same thing, after you make that deposit, you are able to fill out housing questionnaire. That is a way that you can find a roommate and that you will be placed with a roommate if you don't know anyone. They'll ask those kind of normal questions. Are you a really messy person or a very neat person, and give you sort of a continuum in between. So you can fill that out, but you also have the option to choose a roommate. So if you know your best friend from high school and you want to live together, you can both choose each other and they will honor those choices. So you can do that. And Ashley, you said you met your roommate,
during orientation. Yep.
And how did that work out? You just requested each other?
Yep. She wrote my name down and I wrote her name down.
Yep. And not a problem at all. So
Lauren, I have to tell you a funny story.
Yeah,
because
do it.
Prior to starting school, Bridget knew that she was going to be on the golf team. She had met the golf coach, and so prior to coming on campus, I think for an orientation, the golf coach had mentioned that she had a family friend who was also going to attend Neumann and was most likely going to be at this same orientation. And this was one of those an overnight, so we were checking her into the dorm, and it turns out that one of the first people she bumped into was this girl. And
and they ended up as roommates.
So, they, I guess, got to know each other a little bit that day, and same thing as Ashley mentioned, they put each other down, were roommates. So, small world.
Yes, definitely. And I know students, definitely that's a worry that they have about, are they going to make friends? Are they going to meet friends? And especially in the climate right now, you're not able to do that same sort of one-on-one meet and greet with students, but we do have a Facebook group for our incoming class, so feel free to join that. We had a couple questions come in about orientation. We are going to make decisions about everything for the future as we get more information, and we will share it as soon as decisions are made, and we will make sure to put the health and safety of our students first. So we will go on the guidelines based off of what the governor is telling us and Department of Education. So just be aware that communication is coming out. And for any parents that are on, make sure your students are forwarding that information. We do try to make sure we send it to all the parties that are involved, but make sure your students are forwarding and reading their emails as they're going through, because we do send out important updates as we learn new things, as Neumann makes decisions and the administration makes decisions about how we're making changes for on-campus activities. Currently, things are still online for the summer, but obviously that could change any day. So we want to make sure that you're aware and we're keeping you updated as the new information comes out. Questions about the meal plan options? Ashley, any thoughts on the meal plan options? Have you used different ones?
I've kept the same ones since freshman year, but you never finish them, so don't think like, oh, I'm gonna run out. No, yeah.
I think when Bridget first started, she had so many meals at the cafeteria, and then in addition to that, there were points that she could use at the other locations. And of course, she found that she liked that a little better. So I think the second time around, we lowered the meals and raised the points. I don't know if that's a good thing, but she seemed to appreciate the flexibility.
Nice. Ashley, can you talk a little bit about the different options for meals on campus and also off campus? Where can you eat?
So where can you eat? On campus, I know there's been a lot of there's different options. Either you have the cafeteria or you have our cafe known as Nights. A lot of people like to go to Nights just because it's in the building where your classes are. So it's very easy, a quick grab and go if you're gonna eat in your class or if you have something to do. The cafeteria is very known for seating, sitting down, kind of chilling for dinner with your friends or so. But there's always different options. I know there's your typical food, and then we do have we call it our, it's been a long time since I've been in school. They call it our it's like a diversity thing where there's different plates out. It's a special dish. I know there are people with special dietary options, so they do have a little you could say a little tag that says what's in it. The chef's always around, so if you want some you can't eat some sort of thing, he'll tell you what's in it or not. And yeah, does that answer the question?
It did. That was great.
Okay.
Perfect.
Knight's Cafe is very convenient. I have to say, I'm tempted to get French fries every day around the corner from my office, and I just want to pop in there for French fries. Bad.
And I must say, I do enjoy the dining hall when I go over to eat pretty much anywhere. So I know students always question, normal question, what is the food like? And again, I would eat in the dining hall every day. So
it's like having breakfast for dinner.
But I understand when you're eating the same thing over and over again, you like to have those options. And we do have those off-campus options as well. One of our favorite is, our students can go get half-price apps at Applebee's. That is definitely one of the locations they like to go to. So a lot of options for just changing things up.
And as a parent, the Aston Diner gives a discount with your.
Oh, that I didn't even know.
For the whole family.
Yeah.
That's
and DoorDash, good for Bridget, bad for us. DoorDash really is incredibly accessible. So if you want the Chick-fil-A, if you feel like something different, pizza, there's a lot of DoorDash options as well.
Of
Or
course.
even our different events will cater from Chick-fil-A or Seasons, different companies around. So that's pretty cool.
All right. Well, so we are at our time. Let's go around the group one last time. Most important thing that students need to know about Neumann in, 2 sentences or less. So Brian and Kathleen, can you start?
Sure. Go ahead. I would say it's Neumann is a welcoming environment, and there is a lot of opportunity for you to get involved, both within your majors and with activities. So just be open to it all and really explore the possibility of a small suburban setting.
Brian DeFoni?
Yeah, I think college is what you make of it. I think Neumann University gives you all of the resources that you need to be successful and graduate within 4 or some change. So yeah, good luck.
Thanks. Preeti?
So when you're here, you're part of the Neumann family, whether it's in person or virtually, and know that all of us, faculty, staff, administrators, are here to see you succeed.
And Ashley?
If you really want that home-like kind of school, like that one-on-one. You don't want to feel like a number. Definitely come to Neumann. And yeah, everyone's very accessible. So if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out.
Thank you. And from my end in the Office of Undergraduate Admission, we are here for you. Whatever questions you need. Again, we are working remotely, so our email addresses are all on the website. So reach out via email. That's probably the best way. But phone as well should all come to us. So definitely get any of those questions answered that you have. So we're going to end right now. I will stay on afterwards, make sure I answer all of these questions. So if you didn't get your question answered, I will either answer them live or I will write your answer back to you, but want to share the contact information with everyone right now so you can see everyone's contact information. And everyone already has said they are more than willing to hear from you directly. So if you have any questions that you didn't get answered tonight, you can definitely contact them. So here is the, let me pull it up here. Here is that screen. So all of our contact information is listed right here. Want to say a final thank you to everyone for joining us tonight, taking some time. Hopefully this was informative and helpful. And we hope to see you at Neumann in the fall. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good seeing everyone.